Hey guys, welcome back to Now I Know. Today we are talking about structure of a neuron or structure of a nerve cell. Now before I go on, I would like to say I might sound little different in this video because I'm having terrible cold, but I will try my best to sound as clear as possible. Now let's begin with the video. Now in a simpler way, if I want to explain what is a nerve cell, I can say that nerve cell is a basic cell of our nervous system. Right? It is the basic cell of our nervous system. Now before I jump to the structure directly, nerve cell, let me give you one very basic example. Let's say you're watching this video and enjoying a hot cup of coffee. Now you're going to, pick up the mug of coffee and by mistake you touch the hot coffee inside. What will happen? Within a fraction of a second, without even thinking, you're going to pull back your hand. That happened because of the nerve cells, transmitting the message saying that you have touched something hot, pull your hand back, you'll get hurt. So that's the power of nerve cell. This is a very basic example. There are so many different things that we need to know about nerve cell, but this is just an example, very basic example to understand how important these nerve cells are. Now let's take the diagram and understand the structure. This is the diagram of nerve cell. I'm sure many a times you might have seen this. Now nerve cell, like any other cell, it's a cell, right? So a cell would have a nucleus, isn't it? Other than RBC, all the cells have nucleus. You talked about it many times. So this cell, nerve cell, would have the nucleus. Here is the nucleus, and it is surrounded by the cytoplasm. And also the cytoplasm would have the cell organelles like mitochondria, Golgi complex, lysosome, etc. So this part over here in red you can see is the cell or the soma that has the nucleus and cytoplasm with cell organelles. So this part is called cell body. There are three parts of neurons that we need to understand. The first part is cell body, where it has the nucleus. Of course it's a cell, so it has a nucleus, has the cytoplasm around it, and it has the cell organelles. Now on the one side of the cell body there are this multiple extensions coming out. You can see highly branched multiple extensions coming out. These extensions, highly branched extensions, are called dendrites. Now if you look at this, they look like tree, right? Small trees. And dendrites means, dendron means tree and dendrites means small tree. That's why they are named dendrites. Now what is the function of these dendrites? As I said, when you touch hot coffee, say for example, that means you're getting a stimuli. Some stimulus is there. That means you're receiving some signal. That receiving or input of the signal happens because of these dendrites. Let me change the color. So say for example these dendrites, they get the stimulus, they get the signal that is passed to the nerve cell. If the signal is strong enough, it will be passed on further in the nerve cell. So the receiving or input portion of a neuron is done by dendrites. Alright, now the other side of the cell body. Now this part over here, this is the second part, dendrites of neuron. First was cell body, second is dendrite. Now at the other part of the cell body, this black color thin cylindrical projection that is coming out is called axon. Okay, and this is the third part of a neuron. So this axon, what is the function of this axon? These dendrites would receive the nerve impulse, and that nerve impulse would be propagated by the axon towards the next neuron. Maybe after this nerve cell there is one more nerve cell, or there is a muscle fiber. So this axon would propagate this nerve impulse, incoming nerve impulse, towards the next nerve cell or muscle fiber. So it is actually propagating the nerve impulse. Now sometime when we are talking about in some video action potential, nerve impulse, you can understand this much better. But as of now, remember that axon is going to propagate the nerve impulse towards maybe the next nerve cell or muscles. Now this axon would have cytoplasm. Okay, it also would have cytoplasm, and since it is in the axon, it is called axoplasm. And the plasma membrane of axon is called axolemma. Lemma means sheet. Easy to understand. Since it is cytoplasm of axon and plasma membrane of axon, they are called axoplasm and axolemma respectively. Now, since it is propagating the nerve impulse, the axon needs a kind of insulation, and that insulation is provided by Schwann cells. This Schwann cells would produce a thin sheet made up of lipids and proteins, and there will be multi-layer of these sheet surrounding this axon, like this, one above the other. And what you can see inside you is something like this. This is the multi-layered sheet that is produced by Schwann cells. If I take cross section, something like this you can see. Okay, and axon is passing from this, like in between, you can see over here. This is the same thing. So this multi-layer sheet over here that provides the insulation is called myelin sheath. Alright, so Schwann cells produce this multi-layer sheet, myelin sheath, that provides the insulation to the axon. They are named from the scientists who discovered them. So you can see the myelin sheet over here, right? But it is not continuous. There is gap in between, right? And that portion is called node of Ranvier. Once again, it is named from the scientists who discovered them. Now let's come towards the end of this axon, axon terminal. This is called axon terminal because it's the terminal part. Now what is there in this axon terminal? As you can see, it ends in swollen bulb kind of structure. Each bulb would have tiny sac in it containing something very important called neurotransmitters. Now neurotransmitters are the chemicals that are going to carry the message for either excitation or inhibition of the nerve impulse, and these tiny bulbs are called as synaptic end bulb. There can be a next nerve cell. Let's say for example there is the same nerve cell next over here. There can be a next nerve cell over here. So the gap between these two nerve cells, or let's say there was a muscle fiber over here. So this gap between two nerve cell or a nerve cell and a fiber cell is called synapse. Okay, this junction between two nerve cells or a nerve cell and a fiber is called synapse. So once the nerve impulse is coming over here, neurotransmitters would get released, and it will give the message to the next nerve cell, say for example maybe for excitation or inhibition. Okay, I forgot to mention one more point over here. From the cell body, this part over here that joins to axon, it's like a small hill, isn't it? Like a cone shape. This is called axon hillock, the part that joins the cell body to axon, and because it appears like a small hill, like hillock means small hill, that's how it is named, axon hillock. Alright, so that's all. We need to know important three parts: cell body, dendrites and axon. Cell body, like any other cell would have nucleus, cytoplasm and cell organelles. One side of the cell body has dendrites. They are named so because they look like tiny trees, branching trees, and the function of dendrites is to receive the signal, receive the nerve impulse. And the other side of a cell body is called axon, this long cylindrical portion. This axon is insulated by myelin sheath, and the gap in between is called node of Ranvier. The end portion, the axon terminals, would have this synaptic end bulb that contains the neurotransmitters, which would release the chemical or the neurotransmitters, and that would be given to the maybe next nerve cell or a muscle cell, say for example. So that's all for now. I hope this video was helpful. Do subscribe to the channel for new video every week, and I'll see you next time. Until then, keep learning.